The Hellcat Academy by Janson Davies. Chapter 1. The Gilded Cage. The Galactic Girls' School was not built. It was curated, suspended within a shimmering dome on the colony planet Terrelia Prime. The campus sprawled like a jeweled serpent across the landscape, its architecture a fusion of Terran opulence and alien minimalism. Marble towers rose beside crystalline lecture halls. Gardens bloomed with bioluminescent flora imported from 12 star systems. Every corridor whispered of wealth, legacy, and untouchable bloodlines. It was a school for daughters. Not just any daughters. These were the heirs of Earth's diplomatic elite, the teenage scions of ambassadors, trade magnates, and planetary governors. Their names opened doors across the galaxy. Their whims bent policy. Their cruelty, unchecked, had become tradition. They called it the Hellcat Academy. Officially, it was a center for xenology, the study of alien cultures, languages, and diplomacy. Unofficially, it was a crucible of entitlement. The girls were trained to charm, manipulate, and dominate. Many of the instructors were aliens themselves, brought in to teach first-hand perspectives. They were brilliant, patient, and vulnerable. The Hellcats knew it. Lyra Vance was queen among them. Daughter of Earth's high envoy to the Andari cluster, she walked the halls like a monarch. Her entourage followed in her wake: Zara Miles, Eleni Tran, and the twins, Kira and Kale. They were beautiful, venomous, and bored. Their days were spent tormenting instructors, especially those of alien origin. Their nights were filled with whispered plans, illicit tech, and cruel laughter. The administration turned a blind eye. Too many careers depended on the goodwill of the girls' families. Too many scandals had been buried in the name of diplomacy. Then came the screaming incident. Professor Velen had taught xenolinguistics for 17 years. He was a soft-bodied Othrunian, with translucent skin and a voice like wind through coral. His species processed sound not just through ears, but through dermal resonance, vibrations across the skin that translated into meaning. It made him an exceptional linguist. It also made him vulnerable. He stood at the front of Lecture Hall Theta, his tendrils twitching with nervous anticipation. Today's lesson was on tonal dialects in the Terrellian trade tongue. He had prepared a pop quiz, nothing malicious, just a gentle challenge. He hoped the girls would surprise him. They did. Lyra Vance leaned back in her seat, her boots propped on the desk. She exchanged a glance with Zara Miles. A signal passed between them, silent, practiced. The twins grinned. Eleni Tran tapped her stylus against her datapad, syncing the countdown. Velen cleared his throat. "Ladies, I have a brief assessment." The scream hit like a sonic blade. 15 voices, perfectly timed, perfectly pitched, a shriek engineered for maximum resonance. Velen staggered, his dermal receptors spasming, his vision blurred. He collapsed, convulsing on the floor. The girls laughed. Security was called. Medics arrived. Velen was rushed to the infirmary, his neural lattice scorched by the auditory assault. He would not return that semester. Perhaps not ever. The incident was reviewed. The footage was clear. The intent was undeniable. No one was punished. Lyra's father sent a message of regret. Zara's family threatened to pull funding. The twins' mother, a planetary governor, reminded the board of her influence over interstellar visas. The administration folded. The incident was reclassified as a cultural misunderstanding. The alien faculty took note. One by one, they resigned. Professor Tikor of the Andari left quietly. Instructor Male from the Vexari system vanished mid-term. The school's diversity shrank. The curriculum narrowed. The Hellcats grew bolder. In the staff lounge, whispers turned to silence. Fear settled like dust. And then, 1 week later, a new name appeared on the faculty roster. Chapter 2. The fresh fish. The shuttle descended in silence. No diplomatic escort, no ceremonial welcome. Just a single vessel gliding through the morning mist, its hull matte black and unmarked. It docked at the eastern gate of the Galactic Girls' School, bypassing the main port reserved for dignitaries and visiting scholars. Inside the shuttle stood Surya. She was old, quiet, tall, but not imposing. Her skin shimmered faintly like obsidian laced with oil. Her eyes were deep-set, unreadable, and her movements carried the weight of someone who had lived many lives and buried most of them. She wore the standard instructor's robes, but they hung differently on her frame, as if resisting definition. The guards barely glanced at her credentials. The system had already cleared her. No species listed, no prior postings. Just a note. Instructor, Xenocultural Ethics. She walked the halls alone in a slow shuffle. Students passed her without acknowledgement. Staff offered polite nods, then whispered behind her back. The Hellcats watched from the upper balconies, their eyes sharp with curiosity and cruelty. Lyra Vance leaned over the railing, her platinum braid catching the light. "Fresh fish," she murmured. Zara Miles smirked. "She looks like she crawled out of a relic vault." "She won't last a week," said Kale, one of the twins. "Bet she doesn't even know what a neural prank is." They laughed, loudly, deliberately. Surya didn't flinch. She entered her quarters, bare, functional, untouched. She unpacked nothing. Instead, she activated the room's privacy field and opened a secure data crystal. The holographic interface bloomed in the air, revealing files, incident reports, disciplinary records, surveillance footage, names, faces, screams. She studied them all. Professor Velen, Instructor Male, Dean to Core. Each one broken, humiliated, driven out. Each one a casualty of unchecked privilege. Her fingers shifted, morphing subtly. Her face rippled, then returned to its original form. She had come to teach. But first, she would unteach. Chapter 3. The Shapeshifter's Oath. Surya did not sleep. She sat cross-legged in the center of her quarters, surrounded by holographic projections of faces, students, instructors, administrators. Each image flickered with embedded data, behavioral patterns, disciplinary records, biometric scans. The worst offenders glowed red. Lyra Vance, Zara Miles, Kyle and Kira, Eleni Tran. She studied them like prey. Her species, the Xelari, were born of fear and exile. Once revered as sacred intermediaries between worlds, they had been hunted into obscurity after the Great Mimic War. Too dangerous, too unpredictable. Their gift, perfect shapeshifting, was seen as a threat to order. Surya had survived by becoming invisible, until the Hellcats found her. She remembered the academy on the moon of Tavel, her first teaching post, her joy, her trust. The girls had mocked her form, triggered her involuntary shifts, recorded her transformations, and leaked them to the interstellar press. The scandal cost her everything. Now she would unmake what they had built. She began with Lyra. Late one night, Surya slipped into the biometric archives and assumed Lyra's form. The transformation was flawless. Voice, gait, scent, even neural signature. She walked the halls as Lyra, bypassing security with ease. She entered the diplomatic archives and triggered a breach alarm. Cameras caught her face. The system logged her identity. The real Lyra was off campus, attending a party in secret and without authorization. By morning, the scandal had erupted. Lyra was suspended. Her father threatened litigation. The administration scrambled. But the footage was clear. The biometric data was irrefutable. Surya watched from the shadows. Next came Zara. She impersonated Zara during a routine inspection, planting contraband tech in the alien dormitories. The twins were next, caught cheating on a xenology exam they hadn't attended. Eleni was blamed for a diplomatic insult she never uttered. Each strike was precise, each punishment poetic. The girls began to fracture. Whispers of betrayal spread. Friendships dissolved. The Hellcats turned on one another, desperate to prove their innocence. Surya remained silent. She taught her classes with grace and patience. Her lectures on xenocultural ethics were praised by visiting dignitaries. Her students, those not targeted, flourished. The alien instructors began to return. The academy shifted. But Surya's oath was not yet fulfilled. She had promised justice, not just for herself, but for every voice silenced, every form mocked, every teacher broken. And she would keep that promise. Chapter 4. Lyra's Fall. Lyra Vance had never been questioned. Her name was a shield. Her father's title, High Envoy to the Andari Cluster, was a sword. She wielded both with precision, slicing through rules, reputations, and rivals. The academy bent around her like gravity. Teachers flinched, students followed, administrators obeyed, until the footage surfaced. It was her face, her voice, her biometric signature. Lyra Vance, caught red-handed in the diplomatic archives, triggering a breach alarm and accessing restricted files. The footage was time-stamped. The system confirmed her identity. The scandal ignited like plasma. But Lyra hadn't been there. She had witnesses. She had alibis. She had proof. None of it mattered. The Academy's protocols were clear. Biometric evidence was irrefutable. Lyra was suspended pending investigation. Her father sent a furious transmission, demanding answers. The board stalled. The footage was too clean, too perfect. Lyra returned to campus under a cloud of suspicion. The Hellcats were silent. Zara avoided her gaze. The twins whispered behind closed doors. Eleni offered a brittle smile, then vanished into the library. Lyra felt the shift, not just in status, but in gravity. The world no longer bent around her. It recoiled. She began to unravel. Her quarters were searched, her privileges revoked. Her name, once a weapon, became a liability. Rumors spread. Had she snapped? Was she sabotaging the academy from within? Was it revenge for some unseen slight? Lyra fought back. She demanded a full audit. She interrogated the tech staff. She reviewed the footage herself, frame by frame. It was her. Every detail, every gesture, even the way she tucked her braid behind her ear, a habit she'd never taught anyone. She stopped sleeping. She started watching. And one night, she saw something. A flicker in the hallway, a shadow with her face, a figure that moved like her, but not quite. Too fluid, too precise. It vanished before she could follow. She reported it. No one believed her. She was losing control. And somewhere in the quiet of her quarters, Surya watched. She had worn Lyra's face. She had walked her path. She had planted the seed of doubt and let it bloom. Lyra's fall was not just punishment, it was transformation. The queen had been dethroned, the mirror had cracked, and the campaign had only begun. Chapter 5. The Mirror Game. The Hellcats had always been united by cruelty. It was their currency, their glue, their shared language. They hunted in packs, laughed in sync, and punished dissent with surgical precision. But now something was wrong. The hierarchy was cracking. The mirror was splintering. Lyra Vance had fallen, suspended, disgraced. Her name, once a shield, had become a curse. And though she swore innocence, the evidence was too perfect, too precise. Then Zara Miles was next. She was caught releasing a hallucinogenic gas into the alien dormitories. Security footage showed her face, her gait, her voice. But Zara had been in an unmonitored maintenance room, illegally recalibrating her neural implant to hack the school's faculty records. She screamed at the footage. No one listened. The twins, Kale and Kira, were accused of cheating on the final xenology exam. Their biometric signatures matched the test room logs, but they had been attending a protest gathering across campus. The logs were verified. The footage was clean. Eleni Tran was blamed for a diplomatic insult during a cultural exchange with the Xelari delegation. She had never attended the event. Each girl swore she was framed. Each girl was believed less than the last. And somewhere in the shadows, Surya watched. She moved like smoke through the halls, wearing faces like cloaks. She studied their habits, their tells, their weaknesses. She became them, not just in form, but in essence. She mimicked their cruelty, their arrogance, their entitlement, and then she turned it against them. The academy began to shift. The Hellcats turned on each other. Accusations flew, alliances fractured. Paranoia bloomed like mold. They formed a secret group, the Sisterhood, dedicated to uncovering the truth. They suspected sabotage. They suspected shapeshifting. But they didn't suspect Surya. She was invisible, too old, too quiet, too beneath their notice. She taught her classes with grace. Her lectures on xenocultural ethics were praised by visiting scholars. Her students, those untouched by her campaign, flourished. The alien instructors returned. The school's reputation began to heal. But beneath the surface, the Hellcats rotted. Their power was gone. Their unity dissolved. Their identities, once weapons, had become liabilities. And Surya's campaign was far from over. She wasn't just punishing them, she was teaching them. That identity is not privilege, that power without empathy is hollow, that the mirror reflects more than a face, it reflects truth. And truth, in the hands of a shapeshifter, is a blade. Chapter 6, The Whisper Network. They called themselves the Sisterhood. It began as a whisper. Zara Miles, bruised by expulsion threats, cornering Eleni Tran in the library's shadow archives. "Someone's wearing our faces," she said. "It's not sabotage, it's mimicry." Eleni didn't laugh. She'd seen it too. A flicker in the hall. A version of herself entering the xenobotany lab when she'd been in ethics class. She'd dismissed it as stress. Now she wasn't so sure. By week's end, 5 girls had joined the Sisterhood. They met in secret beneath the old observatory dome where the surveillance drones couldn't reach. They shared stories, patterns, the impossible overlaps, the biometric betrayals. They began to suspect shapeshifting. It was a fantasy, of course. The Xelari were extinct, or exiled, or theoretical. The last confirmed sighting had been centuries ago, during the Mimic Wars. But the evidence was mounting, too perfect, too precise. No human tech could replicate identity this cleanly. They started watching. Not the students, the staff. They reviewed lecture footage, Surya's movements, her voice, her presence. She was always calm, always composed, but something was off. Her gait shifted subtly between days. Her posture changed depending on who she passed. Her scent, barely perceptible, seemed to echo the pheromonal profile of whoever stood nearest. Zara hacked the biometric logs. Surya's profile was blank. No species, no origin, no neural signature. Just a placeholder, instructor, xenocultural ethics. They confronted the administration. The dean dismissed them. "You're paranoid," she said. "Focus on your studies." They confronted Surya. She smiled. "Identity is a fluid concept," she said, "especially among diplomats." They left shaken. The Sisterhood doubled down. They planted surveillance nodes. They tracked movement patterns. They began to map the mimicry. But Surya was always one step ahead. She left false trails. She mimicked their mimicry. She turned their paranoia inward. Kael accused Kira of sabotage. Eleni suspected Zara. Lyra, still suspended, sent encrypted messages warning of betrayal. The network began to fracture, and Saria watched. She didn't need to destroy them. She only needed to let them destroy each other. The mirror was cracked, the reflections were multiplying, and in the chaos, truth became myth. She was no longer just a teacher. She was a lesson. Chapter 7. The Aliens Past. Before she was Saria, she was called Vaishar. She taught on the moon of Tivel, a sanctuary of learning orbiting the gas giant Elaris. The academy there was ancient, carved into obsidian cliffs and lit by bioluminescent vines. It welcomed species from across the quadrant: humans, Xelari, Andari, and the rare Xelari. Vaishar was the last of her kind. She taught empathy through mimicry. Her students learned by becoming, shifting into alien forms, walking in foreign bodies, speaking in borrowed tongues. It was sacred work. It was dangerous. But it was hers. Then the humans arrived, 5 girls, daughters of diplomats. They came with smiles and status, and beneath both, a hunger for control. They mocked the rituals. They triggered her involuntary shifts. They filmed her transformations, her body flickering between forms, her voice fracturing into alien dialects. They leaked the footage to the interstellar press. The scandal was immediate. The Academy was shamed. The humans claimed ignorance. Vaishar was blamed. Her species, already feared, was branded unstable. She was exiled. Her name was stripped, her credentials erased. She vanished into the outer systems, a ghost with a shifting face. She wandered for years. She taught in forgotten outposts. She studied mimicry in silence. She watched the rise of the Hellcat Academy from afar, saw the same cruelty, the same impunity, the same daughters of power. She waited, and then she returned. She took a new name, Saria. She erased her past. She applied for a teaching post. She passed every scan, every test. No one recognized her. No one remembered. But she remembered everything. The laughter, the betrayal, the silence. She made an oath beneath the twin moons of Tivel, her body shifting through the forms of her tormentors. She would not kill. She would not harm. She would teach. But first she would unteach. She would dismantle the myth of untouchable power. She would wear their faces. She would make them see. Chapter 8. The Expulsion of Zara. Zara Miles had always been the enforcer. Where Lyra Vance wielded charm and legacy, Zara delivered consequence. She was the one who made teachers cry, who rewired classroom drones to mimic alien slurs, who once locked an instructor in a sensory deprivation pod as a joke. Her father ran the Terran Trade Authority. Her mother chaired the Diplomatic Oversight Council. Zara was untouchable, until she wasn't. The incident began with a scent. A sweet metallic vapor drifting through the alien dormitories, subtle at first, then overwhelming. Vexari students collapsed in the halls, hallucinating ancestral visions. Andari girls screamed in tongues they hadn't learned. The academy went into lockdown. Security traced the source to Zara's quarters. Inside, they found a dispersal unit, illegal, unregistered, and laced with neuroreactive compounds banned by interstellar law. The logs showed Zara entering her room minutes before the release. Surveillance confirmed it. Biometric scans matched. She protested. She screamed. She threatened. But the evidence was too clean, too perfect. The administration hesitated. Then, for the first time in Academy history, they acted. Zara Miles was expelled. Her family launched a diplomatic protest. The Trade Authority froze funding. The Oversight Council demanded an inquiry. But the footage held. The biometric data was irrefutable. The Academy stood firm, and beneath the surface, Sriya smiled. She had worn Zara's face. She had walked her path. She had planted the dispersal unit with surgical precision. Not to harm, but to reveal, to force the system to choose between truth and power. They chose truth. The expulsion sent shockwaves through the student body. The Hellcats were no longer invincible. The administration tightened protocols. Biometric scans were cross-referenced. Surveillance drones were upgraded. Staff were retrained. But none of it mattered. Suria's mimicry was beyond their reach. Her shifts were not just physical, they were mythic. She didn't copy, she became. She didn't impersonate, she inhabited. And now, with Zara gone, the balance had tipped. The Academy was changing, the Hellcats were shrinking, and the shapeshifter's lesson was only halfway taught. Chapter 9, The Turning Point. The silence was the first sign. No laughter in the halls, no pranks, no whispered plans. The Hellcats, what remained of them, walked with measured steps, eyes lowered, voices hushed. The Academy felt different, as if the air itself had thickened, pressing down with invisible consequence. Lyra Vance, once the queen of chaos, sat alone in the courtyard, her braid undone, her datapad untouched. Zara Miles was gone. The twins kept to themselves. Eleni Tran had stopped speaking entirely. The administration took credit. They cited new protocols, upgraded surveillance, stricter biometric verification. They praised the disciplinary board for its courageous stance. They welcomed back alien instructors with cautious optimism. The school's reputation began to recover, but the staff knew better. They saw the change in the girls' eyes, not fear of punishment, but fear of something deeper, something they couldn't name, a presence, a shadow, a mirror they couldn't escape. Surya continued to teach. Her lectures were quiet, precise, and oddly magnetic. She spoke of cultural empathy, of identity as performance, of the ethics of transformation. Her students listened, not just the humans, the aliens too. Her classroom became a sanctuary. She never mentioned the incidents. She never acknowledged the chaos. But her presence was undeniable. The girls began to behave, not out of guilt, but out of uncertainty. They no longer trusted their own reflections. They no longer knew who was watching. They no longer knew who they were. And that was the lesson. Surya hadn't come to punish. She had come to reshape. To teach the daughters of power that identity is earned, not inherited. That empathy is strength. That mimicry reveals truth. That the face in the mirror is never just yours. The Academy shifted. The Hellcats faded. And in the quiet, something new began to grow. Chapter 10. The Return. The Academy stood quiet beneath the twin suns of Tyrelia Prime. Its towers gleamed, its gardens bloomed, its halls echoed with the sounds of learning. Not laughter, not cruelty, but curiosity. The Hellcats were gone. In their place, students walked with humility, with empathy, with caution. The culture had changed. The mirror had been repaired. Surya remained, not as a teacher, not as a legend, but as a presence. She had shifted again, her form now that of a janitor, sweeping the marble corridors, invisible to power, essential to function. She watched, she listened, she waited. A new wave of students arrived, among them a girl with Lyra's eyes and Zara's smirk. She laughed too loudly. She walked like she owned the stars. She whispered behind her hand. Surya paused. She felt the old stirrings, the echo of cruelty, the scent of entitlement. She didn't move. She didn't shift. Not yet. She simply smiled. The cycle had begun again. But this time the Academy was ready. And somewhere, deep in the archives, a locked file remained. Operation Shapeshifter. Encrypted. Untouched. Waiting. Because justice, like identity, is never static. It shifts, it returns, it remembers. The end. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.